This is going to be a full look at what they're telling us about Nix. That includes the actual system of Nix, Levski, and that kind of stuff, as well as the first introduction to what we're going to be doing when it releases next month. So Nix is coming out in November. It's not coming out complete. To be genuinely honest, I don't care about the planets that much. It is a bummer that it's coming out incomplete, but I think we're getting the most important part, which is Delamar. So this is going to be their explanation of it. We will tune in with our own commentary and all that jazz. Hope you enjoy. This might actually start with Rich. To be honest, I'm gonna. Do we want to do all this lore?
This next era of our universe to life.
When the Nix system was first discovered, the United Empire of Earth, the UAE, came out and did scans and kind of found out that the system wasn't really worth settling. The planets were too hard to terraform, the resources were too tough to get, so they opened it up. And one company saw opportunity where the UAE didn't, QV Planet Services. And so they expanded into the system and tried to mine as much as they could, making a very slim margin by the sheer quantity.
Dude, when I see shots like this, I'm like, okay, can you give us mining like that? They keep showing these amazing shots throughout this whole presentation of ships mining geodes and large asteroids and stuff. And I really, really wish that there was some hint that they were realistically looking at making mining that operates in this way.
Resources they were pulling out.
The system itself sort of ran its course from sort of a large corporate interest perspective, and then was mostly left abandoned.
Now this ended up being the ideal situation for the People's Alliance, who were a group of revolutionaries who were trying to overthrow the dictatorship of the Messer regime that was going on in the empire at the time.
I just would like to point out that the Zeus Mark II is being used to represent the People's Alliance, who were inhabiting Delamar like hundreds of years ago. So that ship didn't even exist. Shame. For shame, CIG.
That was going on in the empire at the time.
So they went to the Nix system and established what became known as Levski. They wanted to make it everything that the UEE wasn't at this time.
They set up what they saw as their ideal society, where everyone's voices would be heard, where everyone would be equal. But they've fallen up.
Look at this person clapping over there like an idiot. We got light.
But they've fallen onto hard times. So Nix today is kind of at an interesting point in its history. Now that they...
How does spray paint work when you're in a vacuum? Can you spray paint from like 10 feet away and just watch as it slowly goes towards the wall and slaps it in ways that you were just not expecting at all? I bet you that's a new art style. Space spray painting. Space painting. Wait, that's just all kinds of paint in space.
Has kind of transformed itself into a democratic society. What is their role? What are the People's Alliance rebelling against? And they still see the empire as being inherently unfair. They see their role as still trying to create a free and fair society. But on the other hand, they have more problems than ever, and there's new threats lurking around every corner. And they have to ask, are they prepared to handle that? Or do they need to turn to the UAE for help?
So there's a lot of lore mixed into this. It's not just like, this isn't really that pertinent to gameplay, but grounds it.
You approach it from kind of two angles in a weird way. What is this system bringing to the gallery? How does this new system plug into it, and what does it bring to the table from a sort of a flavor experience? We want to make sure that whatever it's bringing to the company is unique and has some flair to it.
So the Nix system is a remote system where people want to go and live freely outside of the
Year 3 of seeing quantum travel that we can't experience.
Pressure and influence of the UEE. It's a remote and rugged system with a lot of hostility coming from the ever-present threat of Vandal.
It's kind of like a frontier-esque thing. It's not lawless like Pyro, it's just kind of out there. Pyro's more like a Mad Max wasteland, and Nyx is more like Silverado or like Deadwood, right? It's kind of like a smaller scope.
The emptiness and the loneliness is the defining factor. You're still going to find gangs, you're still going to find hostile presences, but it's where people go if they want to live off the grid.
The People's Alliance is the main peacekeeping force in Nyx.
They were unhappy with the...
That is a very significant statement. I actually missed that the first time, and it's funny because they also have intersect going on here, but
people go
that's
if they want
key.
to live off the grid.
The People's Alliance is the main peacekeeping force in Nyx.
I think it would have been really cool for them to expand on that and give us some insight into how they're going to handle peacekeeping and reputation in Nyx, because we have two pretty different expectations with Stanton and Pyro, and Nyx is a different feeling from both of those systems. I'm wondering when they're going to take the opportunity to explain that, or if they're just, if it's not going to feel... Yeah, who am I kidding? Reputation's not going to change for Nyx. That's not coming yet. But it is good to note that there will be law enforcement in the system. I don't know, man. They gotta explain how they're gonna move forward when it comes to crime stats and reputation. This is a can they keep kicking. And they just add another star system and add more gangs and more factions, and they're not addressing this super important part of the game.
We were unhappy with the direction that the Empire was going under the Messers. They got out. They said, we're just going to start from scratch, build our own society, but build it the way that we think it needs to be built.
They're not perfect. They're just people, but they're doing their best. They want to help keep Nyx safe and make it prosper.
They are trying to do the best that they can, but are faced with the realities of dealing with people, which is tricky.
The Pyro star is quite a warm star. Stanton star is quite neutral. And the Nyx is a little bit cooler. The system has its star, and it has this dark, really, really dense gas sort of nebulous cloud. And it has points of light scattered around it, and those points of light in this gas cloud is really, really hazy. So because Nyx is bordering Vandal space, it was important that we have a gap in the Nyx gas cloud where you could sort of just, in between the clouds, see a piece of the Vandal space. It feels so close that it's even like protruding some red light. The level designers are using it as an actual visual indicator of where to place more dangerous POIs. So if you
I'm like mixed on this because it feels like they're trying to do this with every star system now. This is how they treated Pyro as well. It's a cool idea, and if they use that as kind of like the further you get in that direction of Nyx, the more dangerous things get because you're getting closer to that jump point. But also, I feel like space is so weird that it doesn't just work like that, where if a star system is on that side, then obviously the jump point's on that side. You know, you're kind of moving through quantum space, but yeah, you know, we can suspend that disbelief a little bit.
In the direction of it, you should find, as we build it out, that you will be in more and more danger. And I think that's really cool. To give more atmosphere, I was testing out adding some sort of space snowflakes, essentially. So when you look towards the sun, you can sort of see that sort of like sparkle. But then when you look away from the sun, you'll see the reflections and sort of like little glints of light.
We are the space snowflakes.
For the jump points in Nyx, we'll have 2 on this release. We'll have one from Pyro to Nyx and one from Stanton to Nyx. It should be going from Nyx to Castra, but we're essentially bypassing Castra temporarily.
Hey, we want to make
down
sure
for that.
you can get there any way you want.
Galatian Belt is a huge asteroid belt that is in sort of the middle of the system.
Galatian Belt is a combination of a bunch of technologies that we already had. the asteroid fields we use for planetary rings and the gas clouds, and it's combining them to make something completely new that we've just not seen before.
It's full of resources that are still left unharvested because it's kind of a tricky spot for mining. It's not the...
This is all pre-recorded. I really hope they know we're going to pick this apart. You know, when they're saying things like, it's a very difficult place to mine, it's got valuable resources. They got to be careful when they're mixing lore with marketing. They're trying to tell us what to expect from Nyx. If they're telling us all this stuff about the environment and the mining and this and all these things, and then they release Nyx and it's like, it's the exact same minerals that are in Stanton. it's gonna be so freaking disconnected. I will be genuinely frustrated with this whole freaking thing if Nyx comes in and it's not actually different from the other systems. Otherwise, what's the point of adding another system besides hype?
Easiest place to go. But that means that there's still a lot of opportunity for independent miners to go out there.
So the
There he
rocks
is,
in Nyx
mining a
are
huge
bit
asteroid
more
again.
Sharp, like sort of like icy look, rocky, cliff-like, very different from those in the Pyro and the Stanton.
One of the big differences too is all of that extra added movement that just adds a little bit of extra flair.
It's also a good hiding spot for people who are trying to elude capture, maybe set up ambushes, that type of stuff.
Always feel way more interesting flying in those spaces than just, you know, through empty void.
And as we build out the Glacian Belt over the next year, lots of places to put new content.
Delamar is a very large asteroid in the Glacian Belt that QV Planet Services had built a mining base on that got taken over by the People's Alliance and renamed Levski.
Levski
It looks a lot different from old Levski. Let me show you guys what this used to look like. Here we go. It used to look like this. The gas clouds weren't even gas clouds. They were just like 2D textures floating in space around. They just made it a very small planet. So like they put asteroids floating around it, and then they created this tiny little planet. And it was pretty cool because the planet was so small that you could get high enough in the atmosphere, fly fast enough, and turn off your thrust, and you could just orbit the planet or the moon, whatever you want to call it. But this is the first place we ever landed with planets all the way back in the day. This is the very first time we actually got to go there. But this is what it used to look like. It was a lot less blue. There's some concept art. And then the actual first time we saw what they wanted it to look like at its finished point is a really old video they put out. There we go. But you can see like they had this idea that it was deep inside an asteroid belt. Just asteroids and stuff all around it. Gave this really cool sense of like, you could tell there was no atmosphere. Everything is floating around. You know, back to this, obviously it lost a lot of that feel, but they weren't really trying that hard with this. So it makes sense that what we're getting now is a lot more like an asteroid in an asteroid belt.
First and biggest social outpost for Nyx.
It's kind of like the place where you stop before.
And also, listen to that.
Levski is our first and biggest social outpost for Nyx.
So Levski is the first and biggest social outpost. Definitely making sure to leave unsaid there that there will be other outposts and things of other sorts. So Nyx 1 will probably be inhabited, like you guys are asking, why isn't it?
It's kind of like the place where you stop before you do your panning. So it's kind of a San Francisco before you go out to the gold rush.
It's going to be the central hub for trade and hauling and all of the commerce within Nyx and also from Nyx to other systems. But it does have a CD underlayer to it.
Over the years, you're sort of improving the generation method of those asteroids to culminate towards this specific point to make large, explorable location. When you fly towards the Levski, you see this huge gas ring around it, scattered small, mid-sized pieces of the asteroids.
Well, Levski is immediately apparently unique by the fact that it's It's a facility clamped onto the side of an asteroid. The breathtaking views of looking into the belt instantly gives it a unique charm and flavor.
As you approach, you'll initially see a very dramatic borehole that goes...
Yeah, dude, it's completely different. Let me see if I can find a video. Levski. Yeah, here we go. So this is some footage from Levski. Back when we could play it. Guess I was doing a whole bunch of just getting clips, so it's really just me looking at a bunch of stuff in Levski. But you can kind of get an idea of it. It's very much, it looks like a Star Citizen environment. It definitely just gave off the feeling of a broken down and abandoned place. It wasn't really being used a lot anymore. There's the borehole outside. This is kind of a view from the inside. But yeah, you could also just go back to CitizenCon 2016. So this was the first look at Delamar.
Distance on the planet. The horizon line is the actual real horizon line. So the guys in Frankfurt that are doing this, the entrance...
See, so this is what CitizenCon used to be. Chris would just stand up on the stage and talk about stuff that was going on in front of him.
They're pretty genius. So, you know, Marco Cabetta and Carsten Wenzel are sort of the leads of that, and a lot of this is all their baby. So as we slowly pull down, we'll start to enter the atmosphere. And as we sort of start to enter the atmosphere, you sort of see the atmospheric head come in and go up. And also...
The old sprite for fire on re-entry.
And as we get down into the atmosphere, it switches to a more atmospheric flight model. So there is drag, there is some small amount of sort of lift, sort of aerodynamic modeling. So if you have a ship like the Gladius, you'll fly better than something like the Aurora. So here we...
He's talking about control surfaces. Oh my God, it's 2016 and he was talking about control surfaces. Sometimes that just smacks you in the face, dude. Sometimes you're just watching a random video from a decade ago and you'll hear Chris say something and you're like, oh my gosh. That's literally what they're talking about right now.
Anywhere on Del Mar, we could land, get out and walk. So as we fly down here, perhaps...
And to be clear, there is atmospheric flight differences right now. They did have it kind of change when you got in the atmosphere. I think they changed that back in like 2018, 2019. But the actual flight model, the cross section of your ship being used to actually decide the lift and all that stuff wasn't a thing till control surfaces.
Chris, we could demonstrate and just land and get out somewhere, wherever you want.
Very big moment. Great time. The people went crazy. That was the first time anybody ever stepped onto a planet in Star Citizen. But now we can see what Levski looks like. Wait, do we get a good view of the borehole here?
So, switch it. Switch it, Jared.
Oh, don't get me wrong, guys. I laugh when I hear that he's talking about control surfaces. Yeah, it's a bummer that they're talking about things that are like being implemented now, but I have nothing but absolute love for the fact that they've kept a lot of that stuff consistent over the years. That's why I do all of this, looking back at documents and videos and things, because it's good to find the references that they make and make sure they stick to it. The fact that he looked at Hurston in what, 2017 CitizenCon, I think it was, and said, yeah, someday we're going to have the ships flying around and blowing up water behind them. You'd listen to that and you'd be like, okay, sure, that'd be great, but like, I doubt that's going to happen. And now it happens. Doesn't matter. It's not that important a feature. But I like that I can follow Star Citizen for 7-8 years and see those things not disappear into the Netherland and actually get delivered. A lot of stuff has disappeared and not come around yet. These are the kinds of reasons when I do look at some of the stuff and think to myself, I could definitely still see that. Granted, then there's also the flip side of like, you have to consider that some of the stuff will actually disappear. I just like that a lot of it doesn't.
No, point of view, pilot, Jared. There you go. Okay.
Oh, and that's literally the ATC that they've been talking about. But yeah, look at this, dude. Look at the borehole. What it used to be. Just in the middle of this valley. Looking a little... This is way more detailed now. Granted, that's, 9 years difference, so it should be.
Goes all the way through the asteroid. You will also see growing out from there and alongside Levski, there will be landing pads along what I'd call the spine. Lots of industrial pipes and transport systems to bring out the refined mining materials when it was a mining station.
Before, we were using an actual planet, so we had all of the space available to place all of these structures. But now it kind of meant that we had to create an asteroid which has the appropriate size too.
If we took the whole shot of the asteroid,
just goes to show how much they've actually done over the years and the progress they're making. The game is moving forward. Yeah. They're doing things.
We'll see that there is an area to fly underneath. We plan on bringing in Hull C gameplay. So this is exterior cargo elevators. So as a team, you will be able to load and unload cargo.
Yeah, this was an amazingly good idea. There was never any sort of even thought that this borehole was going to go all the way through the asteroid. It was always just this cool... I don't know if you even have any video of it. It was always just this gigantic feature next to Levski. Oh, this video is going to be very relevant in a little bit. We'll come back to this clip. But it was always just like this huge hole in the ground, and then you would go to the bottom and there'd be nothing there, and then you come out the top and be like, okay, maybe there's nothing to do there. Now it's like it goes all the way through, and they have this whole sea, large-scale cargo hauling stuff on the other end. Really, really, really hope that above all else, Nyx comes with some really valuable minerals and a lot of means to need to move them back to Stanton. Make them super valuable, high quality, unique minerals that only sell well in Stanton, and make them in high enough quantities that people actually need to store them off at Levski, right? Once you find people storing stuff at Levski, then you have to start paying people to transport them. Well, you need to pay people to escort those transports. Enough minerals, enough payment, it could actually be worth it. It could actually be a thriving part of the economy of Star Citizen. But that's a big if.
There's a lot more movement on the exterior, such as the cargo trains going around tracks. It's now going to be fully EVA-able. There will be walkways around the main landing zone to walk on using gravity plates, but you can drift off and kind of go wherever you want.
This has got to be a sport, right? How could they live at this place for hundreds of years and not make this a sport?
They can explore fully the whole place, which is great.
Unlike the majority of anarchists living in Pyro, there are people here in Nyx that care.
It's not a downtrodden or derelict, dilapidated location. It has a sense of order.
But only where the People's Alliance has people living.
But we've had Levski before, and we've updated it quite substantially to be more in line with the newer features that have been put in since, but also visually, and there's been a lot of quality of life fixes that we've wanted to add and bring up to like a good standard for a landing zone.
Gracing the main lobby of Levski is a large statue of Anthony Tanaka, who was a child worker.
And was being worked to death, all of them were. And Anthony Tanaka just had a break and just said no, and stood up against the foremen, the supervisors, the managers, the guards, and was killed for it. And so he became a sort of a figurehead.
And kind of was one of the linchpin moments in seeing the fall of the Messer regime.
They shot a kid in the head. They weren't great people. Like, I get it. You shoot kids in heads, you go and you take over an asteroid and make a home somewhere else. Who likes getting shot in the head when they're just working as a 15-year-old?
So if you take the elevator up to the top deck, you'll see the top view and the cargo area as well. So you can go through the cargo shop. You've got your normal kind of cargo needs. You'll have ability to trade and buy your tractor beam and other gear that you need. So if you were to die in the Nix system, then one of the places you might come out from is the hospital in Levski, which is called the Mercy Hospital.
So Mercy Hospital is just basically, it's a local med station for all the residents of Levski, anybody traveling through the system. Again, they're trying to provide as good medical help for people as they can.
When you arrive at the HAB's location, you'll be presented with a lobby, elevator bank, and then you will take that transit to the HAB room. So within that room will be pods.
And that's where the original miners would have lived. They're not the nicest, and they're a bit messy, but they're a home for people in Levski. If you head down to the lower view deck, you'll go through into the Grand Barter, which is your main social and commercial area of Levski.
This is where you will see market sellers selling their wares. There will be stalls, there will be kind of more embedded shops.
And that includes things like Corderies, which is your armor shop, and also Conscientious Objects, which is for weapons.
I actually love that name. Conscientious Objects is such a good name for a weapon shop.
One of my favorite places, Cafe Musée, which is where you can go down into some of the more rocky depths and grab yourself a drink, and you never know who you meet down there. If you explore a bit more around the Grand Barter, there's other routes around and little side passages. There's another shop that's away from that area called Teachers.
Teach's Ship Shop is basically where you would go if you were looking to pick up a used ship, buy some ship parts, fix up your old ship, find some new stuff, sell some scrap.
We've closed up Dumpers Depot for Levski, and everything that used to be sold there will now be sold at Teachers. Another new area, as well as the cargo shop that we've added, is the refinery deck for Levski. That's where you can take your processed goods, not just from Levski, but from the rest of the Nix system, and refine and sell those goods there. As a lot of the content
I just hope we need it.
Next coming releases for Nix is going to be mining related. So it's super important.
Whoop, say again. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I talked over that.
As a lot of the content in the next coming releases for Nix is going to be mining related. So it's super important.
One more time. Sorry, I gotta hear that
and sell
clearly.
Those goods there. As a lot of the content in the next coming releases for Nix is going to be mining related.
Okay, the next coming releases for Nix. So over the next several quarters, that's really nice to know that they're actually focusing on doing some mining related updates.
So it's super important that Levski is a really nice hub for mining type of gameplay. So we're really happy to bring Levski back into the game. It's been gone for quite a few years now.
I think it really provided a unique environment of it's run down, but the people who live there love it and are working their hardest to make it a great place to live.
This is a location that has a lot of nostalgia for you guys, and we don't want this just to be a re-release. We do want you to go, wow.
It's not going to be as complete as Pyro was when it first came out, but it's going to be our first iteration, and you're going to be able to see it grow as we work on it.
Like when I heard that, I was like, was Pyro much complete when it came
with
out?
Everything, we're always learning and improving and finding
I couldn't even walk on the floor.
Is there anything more Star Citizen than just building the system while the players watch us build it around them?
It's going to add a nice dynamic to Stanton and be a much more calming of, style system than Pyro.
The people that would have played it before are going to love to see this come back, and the people that haven't seen it before, it's going to be a great new location.
This is the first time that I'm going to be able to touch stuff and kind of bring my own content to the game, and that's really exciting to me.
Levski coming back into the game is a huge milestone personally for me. So I worked on the original quite some time ago, so seeing it come back and updated and improved and better is fantastic.
All right, so that's a first look at Nyx, and I guess, how long has this been? We've been going at this. We could talk a little bit about that. That's like an introduction to Nyx, and then we're gonna get into this next part, which is like the first event that's running. I think it's a pretty interesting premise. Update Levski to be basically just like a regular landing zone, and then make it more valuable because it has certain factions and minerals out there. It makes a lot of sense. But I'm wondering if that's actually how it's going to be when it lands in 1 month. If there's a difference in the way that you can get things in Nyx, and there's more incentive to do so, then players will naturally start to bring the economy there. But they have to create that differential. It's like electricity, right? You got to have different voltages in order to get a current. They need to give us the means to start exploring out there and moving around and all that stuff. And also there's a line that gets said in the Planet Tech part that really bugs me. When he's like, this is a big part of what exploration is for us. Go out and find a place to place down a base. And I'm like, dude, it's hard to imagine that they haven't noticed the conversation around exploration gameplay and what it could represent and been more careful with the way they script these things. Guess that's why, even though this is all pre-recorded, it's still, like, I guess still take the things that are being said with a grain of salt, because why would exploration be a large part focused about finding a place to put a base? I mean, that's certainly part of it. It's definitely, you got to find a good spot with good resources and stuff, but like, I don't know if I'd say large part. I mean, I hope not. There's got to be more interesting things to find out there. Either way, this has been a first look at Nyx and Levski, kind of a bit of how it's changed since we knew about it, and it's coming next month.